You ever get a letter that makes your blood boil so fast you can't decide whether to laugh or scream? That was me, Ethan Caldwell, 42, staring at a neon orange notice slapped on my boat, docked on my own lake. The nerve of these people, Maplewood Grove HOA, acting like they own my water, demanding I remove my boat in 48 hours or face a $500 a day fine. They even threatened to tow it, like I'm some trespasser. I'm holding this piece of paper, shaking my head, thinking, these folks have no clue who they're messing with. They've been fishing, barbecuing, throwing tournaments on my lake for years without asking. And now they're coming for my beat-up 16-foot aluminum boat? Oh, this was going to be good. Where are you watching from, by the way? Drop a comment, because you're about to see some entitled HOA types get what's coming in a takedown I still grin about. 6 months ago, I was just a burned-out tech guy in Seattle, coding cybersecurity software, grinding through 80-hour weeks. My startup got bought out for a number with enough zeros to make my head spin, so I said, screw it, and walked away. I needed quiet, space, a reset. That's when I remembered Caldwell Lake, my family's 50-acre gem in rural Virginia, bought by my grandpa, Henry Caldwell, back in the 50s. He was a logger turned conservationist, built a cabin by the shore, spent his days fishing and teaching kids to respect the land. Water's life, Ethan, he'd say, voice rough but warm, not a dollar sign. Protect it always. I spent summers there as a kid, casting lines, listening to his stories about fighting off developers who wanted to drain the wetlands. When he passed at 90, then my dad from a stroke at 65, the lake became mine. I hadn't been back in years, too busy chasing deadlines, but now? It was home. I fixed up the cabin, kept the woodsy vibe, added Wi-Fi, new pipes, and settled in. Mornings with coffee on the dock, afternoons tinkering, evenings in my grandpa's old boat, watching the sunset. Pure peace until that neon notice. It screamed violation, claiming my boat broke their aesthetic standards and wasn't registered with the HOA. Registered? On my lake? I found their official letter in my mailbox, signed by Victor Hayes, HOA president, all smug and official. I was still fuming when my neighbor, Walt Grayson, called. Walt's 70, a retired mechanic who knew my grandpa, lives a half-mile down the shore. HOA finally sniffed you out, huh? He chuckled. He told me they've been using my lake for their elite anglers club tournaments forever, acting like they own it since their fancy houses went up a decade ago. Your grandpa would have chased him off with a tire iron, he said. I laughed, picturing it. I dug online and found their website photos of their annual lakeside derby, guys in $500 fishing vests posing with bass from my water. They had a whole page for their club, bragging about exclusive access to community waters. They'd built a temporary dock on my shore, set up tents, barbecues, the works, for years. The next tournament was Saturday, $5,000 prize, catered bash. All on my land, no permission. I was floored. Time to call in the big guns, me college buddy, Lauren Brooks, an environmental lawyer who gets water rights like nobody else. They're telling you to move your boat from your lake? She laughed over the phone. Jake, they're trespassing. Get cameras up, document everything. I'll come down Saturday, and we'll check your deeds. Don't let them touch that boat, it's theft if they do. I set up motion sensor cameras around the lake, focusing on their party spot, and pulled my grandpa's deeds from a dusty filing cabinet. Clear as day, I owned the lake, water rights, and 15 feet past the shoreline. A 2012 survey backed it up. Then came an HOA meeting invite, a mass email. Curious, I went, slipping into the back of their gaudy community center. Victor Hayes, 50s, slick gray hair, navy blazer, ran the show like a wannabe king, yammering about fence colors and mailbox rules. When he got to lake regulations, I perked up. An unauthorized boat's been reported on community waters, he said, all annoyed. All watercraft must be HOA registered and meet aesthetic standards. I couldn't resist. I raised my hand. When you say community waters, who owns the lake? The room stirred. Victor's smile twitched. It's under HOA management, a community asset. I pushed casual-like. So, you've got a deed, or is it a county thing? His knuckles went white on the podium. Historical arrangements. Details aren't relevant here. I nodded, all innocent. I'd love to see those papers sometime. He moved on fast, but I caught him glancing at a woman, Maureen Tate, HOA VP, I learned later. After, a guy approached, George Ramsey, 60s, elite anglers president, decked out in a logoed hat and fishing vest. "You must be new," he said, sizing me up. I mentioned the Caldwell place. His eyes lit up. "The old cabin? Thought it was abandoned." "Nope," I said, "very much mine." He offered me a spot in their exclusive club, like he was doing me a favor on my own lake. I played along, asking about their tournament. "Biggest yet," he bragged, "East Shore Saturday." I thanked him, already planning to record it all. Overheard Victor whispering to George and Maureen, something about speeding up the timeline and handling the Caldwell issue. They were nervous, and I was just getting started. Next day, I found my boat gone, a new notice saying it was impounded for non-compliance, $750 fine to get it back, or they'd auction it. I was livid, pacing the dock, but Grandpa's voice echoed, "Anger's when you think clearest." I called the sheriff useless, called it a civil matter. Lauren arrived, and we spread out the deeds. "Ironclad," she said. "County records showed Maplewood Grove's plans never included my lakite, was always private. The cameras caught residents launching boats on my land, clear trespassing." Then Walt dropped a bomb. His cousin in county planning saw an HOA application for a luxury resort condos, marina, golf course in my lake. They'd been banking on me being absent, assuming they could bully me into selling or claim historical use. Big mistake. We let the tournament happen, cameras rolling. Saturday morning, trucks and boats swarmed my east shore. George set up tents, a bar, a banner screaming 15th Annual Elite Anglers Championship. Lauren and I watched from my deck, binoculars out. Victor showed up with suits investors, carrying resort renderings. We crept closer, hidden in the trees, catching Victor's pitch. "Prime lakefront. We control it all, just finalizing details." One investor asked about owners. Victor lied. "One holdout, but we're close to a deal." That was it. Time to move. Lauren filed an emergency injunction, citing my deeds and their trespassing. The judge granted it that day. I hired security to post "private property, no trespassing" signs around the lake. With a sheriff's deputy, we crashed the tournament. The deputy announced, "This is private property. Vacate now." Chaos erupted. George stormed over, red-faced. "We've done this for 15 years. Lauren held up the injunction. "Sullivan Lake's owned by Ethan Caldwell. You have no rights here." Victor pushed through, shouting, "The HOA's managed this lake forever." Lauren handed him the deed. "County records say otherwise. You've been trespassing, and your investor pitch smells like fraud." Residents murmured, one yelling, "Our HOA fees paid for lake access were we lied to?" The investors bailed, fast. Victor tried one last threat. "You don't know who you're crossing, Caldwell." I stared him down. "I've got your pitch on video, Victor." "Fraud's a bold move. Want to keep going?" He paled, stammering about misunderstandings. The crowd packed up, grumbling. Sarah Miller, a local reporter I'd tipped off, showed up, interviewing pissed-off residents. One woman fumed, $5,000 a year in fees, and they don't own the lake? Sarah's story hit the front page, went viral. The HOA's emergency meeting was a circus. Victor MIA, Maureen floundering, board members quitting. I stood up, calm. "I'm fine with residents fishing, but the HOA lied about owning my lake and planned to develop it. Let's find a fair way forward." People nodded, some apologized. The county investigated the HOA's finances. Turns out, lake maintenance fees were funneled elsewhere. Victor's investors sued him for fraud. Sarah dug up his past. He'd pulled similar scams in Georgia under a different name, barely dodging jail. My boat came back, with a weak apology from the new HOA head, Judge Thomas Reed, a decent guy who knew my grandpa. We set up the Caldwell Lake Trust. Residents pay small fees for access. Funds go to conservation. The East Shore became a public park with a fishing pier, a plaque for Grandpa Henry. Water is life, not a commodity. I repainted my boat but kept it rustic, a middle finger to their aesthetics. Now, I fish with Walt, laugh about Grandpa's style, and know he'd be proud. Sometimes, winning isn't just keeping what's yours, it's showing bullies a better way. The lake's thriving, clearer than ever, wildlife back. But here's the thing. Was I too soft, letting them off with a deal? Should I have sued? What would you do if someone tried to claim your property? Comment below, tell me about a time you faced down an HOA or stood up to a bully. Let's talk about what's right, what's fair, and how far you'd go to protect what's yours.